How are you guys doing? Today is Tuesday, March 30th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I plan on doing an elite profile for Alex Bregman, the elite starting third baseman for the Houston Astros. As of right now, he's definitely on track to being one of the best third basemen or one of the best Astro players in history. He is a champion. He is an all-star. And I think there are so many there's so much that he's done in his career that makes him stand out. And my intention with this profile are to use his accolades, his achievements, to kind of prove the argument as to why I believe he is a player that deserves a profile for the 2021 calendar year. So to give a little bit of background, Alex Bregman, he's from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Have you ever seen him play? Just speaking on his game itself, he's a very controlled hitter. He sees the ball. He is a contact hitter that can drive the ball wherever you want. And of course, he's an amazing third baseman. And not to mention, he's just a jolt of energy in the team. He's very live. He's very electric, and you've seen so. And he was also the guy who got the game-winning hit to win the Astros the World Series in the first place. So, like I said, just given the background, he's originally from Albuquerque. After being one of the best high school players in New Mexico history, he would eventually choose to play baseball at LSU, which is one of the better baseball programs in all of the country. He was originally drafted in the 29th round in 2012, but he decided that he would go to LSU. He was drafted by the Red Sox, but then he just chose college. In college, he would end up establishing himself as one of the best players in all of baseball. He was named SEC Freshman of the Year a couple of times, or in his freshman year. His junior year, he was one of the finalists for the Golden Spikes Award. Long story short, he would establish himself as a good enough player to be taken with the second overall pick in the 2015 MLB draft by the Houston Astros. And with the Astros, he would eventually get called up in 2016 for his age 22 season. In his age 22 season, Alex Bregman would play 49 games in a season where the Astros would finish with an 84-78 record. They had the third best record in the American League West. This is the fourth season since they moved to the American League. But of course, within that season, he would finish with 53 hits in those 49 games. He crossed the plate 31 times, which is an impressive feat considering he did it in 49 games. He finished with 13 doubles, 8 home runs, 34 RBIs as he had a .264 batting average and was still trying to get accustomed to what was going on in the league. Not much going on that season, but the next year his career would definitely change for the better. In 2017, in his age 23 season, he would play 155 games in a season where the Astros had finished with a 101-61 record. They had the best record in the American League West. That year, Jose Altuve would go in. This would be another season where he finished with 200 hits, and he finished with the Silver Slugger, the Hank Aaron Award, the Babe Ruth Award, and the MVP coming into, or just throughout the season, but alongside him in the same infield. Alex Bregman, in the 155 games he played, he finished with 158 hits. The second season in a row, he had more hits than games played. He finished with 88 runs in that season, which is a crazy amount of runs for a player to score, especially in his first full season as a player. He finished with 39 doubles, which is a lot of doubles to hit. He had 19 home runs with 71 RBIs, batting .284 with an 827 OPS, improving on all of his stats across the board. And then not to mention, he also stole 17 bases, the most bases he'd ever steal in a season in his career. He would not make the All-Star team, but that season the Astros would go on to make it into the playoffs, and once they made it into the playoffs, it would kind of be a wrap. The Astros would end up beating the Red Sox 3-1 in the first series as Bregman hit a couple of home runs himself. In the second series, they would end up beating the Yankees in 7 as this one would come all the way down to the very end. In this game, you'd see Bregman with 4 hits in the 7 games that he played, but he would come back for the World Series where they would end up beating the Dodgers in 7 games, the biggest hit of his career coming in Game 5, where, of course, the winner of that game would probably go on to win the series. He would go on to hit the ball up the middle against Kenley Jansen, which would win Game 5 and give the Astros momentum to win their first World Series. Even though it came out after the fact that they did cheat, they were given immunity when they told the MLB exactly how they cheated, so they do get to keep their trophy, they do get to keep their championship, and Alex Bregman still keeps his hit. So that's through his second full season through his first full season in the MLB, I'm sorry, he was already a World Series champion and an Astros legend going forward. So following that, you start to see his numbers and his confidence and everything follow suit. In 2018, he would play 157 games in a season where the Astros would win 103 games. They won 2 more than the previous season in which they went on to win the World Series. Throughout the year, this would be the year where I guess Dallas Keuchel won a Gold Glove, Altuve won a Silver Slugger. But once he made it to his very first All-Star game, Alex Bregman did win the All-Star game MVP. This year, he would finish with 170 hits in those 157 games, which is, of course, more hits than games played. He would finish with 105 runs, the first time he ever eclipsed 100 runs in his career. He finished with 51 doubles. He would lead the American League in doubles, the first time he ever eclipsed 50. He finished with 31 home runs and 103 RBIs. Of course, the first time he had 30 home runs or 100 RBIs, 10 stolen bases. He finished with a 286 batting average, which is a little bit higher than he had the year before. He also struck out 85 times, which is 12 times less than he did the year before, as he also walked 41 times more than the year before. He walked 96 times. In addition to his 286 batting average, he finished with a 926 OPS. And in addition to being named an All-Star, he was fifth in MVP voting for the Astros. Once they made it into the playoffs, they would end up beating the Indians. They swept them in the ALDS, but they would lose in the ALCS to the Red Sox when the Red Sox won 108 games that season. So, of course, that's how 2018 finished out. This would transition into his 2019 season, which would be the last full season that Alex Bregman played. He played 156 games in a season where the Astros have finished with a 107-55 record. They finished with that's the most wins the Astros have ever won in their entire franchise history. But within the season, Alex Bregman would finish with 164 hits in those 156 games. This would be the 4th year in a row in which he had more hits than games played. He finished with 122 runs, which is the most runs he'd ever put up in his career, and still 122 is a lot of runs. He finished with 37 doubles, which would be the 3rd most he'd ever put up in his career, the 3rd time he'd ever put up at least 35. He finished with 41 home runs with 112 RBIs, the first time he eclipsed 40 home runs and 110 RBIs. He also finished with 119 walks, which, of course, the first time he had over 100 walks in a season, and he would go on to lead the American League in that stat category. He would finish with a 296 batting average and a 1015 OPS over the entire season, as he was an All-Star for the 2nd year in a row. He won his very first Silver Slugger. He would finish as the American League MVP runner-up to Mike Trout, as, of course, he was named to the All-MLB second team for 2019 as well. Just to give a sense of how great Alex Bregman was, of course, at the position. And this would transition into the last year that he played with Houston. He would play 42 games in a season where the Astros had to shorten their season they had to play 60 games due to COVID because they had to shorten the season. They finished with a 29-31 record, but still happened to make the playoffs because they had the 2nd best record in the AL West. In that season, Alex Bregman would finish with 37 hits in the 42 games that he played. That'd be the first time in his career he had less hits than games played. He finished with 19 runs in those 42 innings. He had 12 doubles, 6 home runs, and 22 RBIs, as he finished with a 242 batting average and an 801 OPS, which was the lowest batting average and OPS he'd ever put up thus far in his career. And he played less games this past season than he did his very first season. So I expect Alex Bregman to be able to bounce back this season. And going into the next Astros game, they will face off against the Oakland Athletics on opening day on Thursday. But right now, looking at where Alex Bregman stands, right now he's 27 years old. He's a 2-time All-Star, and the last full season he played in the MLB, he was second team All MLB. Not to mention a Silver Slugger, and he is known for being the player that was able to break through the Dodgers and help the Astros win that series in 2017. With that said, I mean, I think there's still a lot more to come. He is 27. It's very possible that his best years are still yet to come. But with that said, I want to thank everyone once again for listening to all 9-10 minutes of this piece. I want to wish Alex Bregman a happy 27th birthday. And if you ever get a chance to watch him, he's wearing number 2 for the Astros, and the Astros will start picking up their game in a couple days. So with that said, I want to thank everyone for listening to this piece. I hope all is well, and I want to thank you for being a part of the journey. Peace out. I'll catch you next time.